Hi, everyone. This is Heather Hodges. I'm an organizational psychologist. Welcome to my show. This is the place where we say I'm in to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. I'm delighted to welcome my friend, Jennifer Maxwell, back to the show. Jen is the co-founder and CEO of Maxwell TEC. She has spent her career helping home care and hospice organizations navigate disruption from operational and regulatory shifts to cultural and technological change. With a background spanning mental health, executive leadership, association work, and direct service with aging populations, she brings both a broad and deep understanding of our industry. And today, she joins us to talk about what it takes to lead through rolling change. Jen, welcome back to the show. I could not be more excited about our conversation today.
I am so excited to be back. Just super excited about the topics that you and I have kind of brainstormed about, and excited to have your viewership be able to listen to us chat about it.
Absolutely. Well, this is one of your fields of expertise. So when we think about change, like everything is changing right now. It's not just change. Okay, we're done. It's continuous. It's rolling change. Everything's changing. And we have to be ready, and we have to lead change. So I'm curious, just from your perspective and, from your expertise, your background, having trained change, having led change, talk to us about change, Jen. Help us.
Yeah. So I always like to start off like, one of this, it's a saying, from our mental health background and our counseling backgrounds, right? Mm-hmm. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can manage best change. Like that's Darwin. I mean, mm-hmm. and when you think about that, it's not survival of the fittest. It's who can manage changing, right? Whether mm-hmm. it's our environment, whether it's the food we eat or where we get it from or the jobs we have, like change is inevitable. And, mm-hmm. and unless we are able to manage that change, we as a species don't survive, right?
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Exactly. No, I mean, that perspective alone is just fascinating. It's not the strongest, but it's the most adaptable. Those who can keep rolling with the change. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. And like when I think about change in and of itself, it's not, if we're thinking of it from a business perspective, it's the only competitive advantage that an organization can have. Mm-hmm. Is being able to manage change. It's complex, it's dynamic, and being able to have a team that supports that and can drive that through their organization. Mm-hmm. I mean, mm-hmm. that's where successful companies come to play.
How do you think that, when we have leaders who are listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, and they're thinking, okay, I know I've got change coming. I've got to be ready. There's lots of things going on in the care at home industry, for example, or healthcare in general. What would you say to those leaders to help them lead change in their teams or in their organizations?
Well, I think, when I break it down into just some simple kind of for lack of a better term, elements per mm-hmm. se. It's almost like the scientific theory when you peel back the layers of it. Mm-hmm. So when we're thinking about change, we really need to know what the definition of change is, right? And then being able to communicate that to your people within the organization. And, some of the big things that I always say is, make sure you're interviewing your team, talk to them, ask them questions, and listen mm-hmm. to where there might be barriers, where there's dissent among the thought process mm-hmm. behind the change, or if they have other ideas about how to do the change, right? Because at the end of the day, it's those that are in the field, those that are in the back office, those that are doing the work itself, that really, they have to be on board with that. We as leadership, we can sit in our little Eiffel Tower all day long, but and think that change is going to happen. But if we haven't gotten them on board with us, and we're not hearing them, and we're not questioning them, and we're not building trust, that change isn't going to happen. And if it does, it's superficial and it's short term.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when parents are watching, the kids behave, right? If they say, everybody's getting along really well, then we as leadership can back off and let them do their thing. And the problem is if they weren't on board to begin with, they're going to go back to the old way or circumvent the change and do something different.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen that before where leaders roll change out. Maybe they communicate it once or twice and think, okay, we're good. And then the team either reverts back, or some team members may even sabotage the change because they don't want to do it. Like, because change is hard and it makes people anxious. And they think, what was wrong with the way we were already doing it?
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Why do we need to change this? Yeah, exactly. So many times.
I've heard that so many times. And you know, and I guess why, like, my passion, obviously, you know, grow through my career has been all about change and flexibility and agility and things like that with organizations. But we do a lot of technological, like electronic medical rip outs and replace. And we are uprooting an entire organization's functionality, right? So if we're not communicating and asking questions and answering questions to the end users, we're literally just burning money up and just putting it in the garbage, right? Like, you can't. I mean, I've had pastors who are like, I don't want to use a tablet. What am I going to use this tablet for? And they're throwing out 4-letter words that I've never heard a pastor come out of their mouth.
Yeah, you move their cheese. Like, don't ask me to change.
Yes, it's like, it is so impactful. But if, you sit down with them and you explain that this is a tool, this is going to help you be able to provide better care at the bedside. This is for you to spend more time with your patient, right? Like, explain the why. If you don't explain the why, the change stays this big, scary, monster that nobody really knows what it means and why we're doing it.
So I think one of the biggest things I hear you saying, Jen, when we talk about human behavior and motivation, and I hear you talking about leaders, as leaders, they need to sell the benefits to their team. Like, give them the why. Why is this going to make your job easier? Why is it going to make the serving our patients and caring for patients even better? And helping people make that change in their minds, because I think, as humans, our nature is just, no, I don't want to do that. And leaders have to sell that to their teams over and over and over again, continuously.
Yeah. And I think sometimes there's one of the things I always do when I'm working with, like, leadership about change is be vulnerable. Be vulnerable with your team. Because the more vulnerable and open and honest you are, the more they're willing to be open and honest with you and build trust and rapport, even if they're, like, scared to death about this change. But if they know that you're in it with them and you're supporting them and you're listening and we're defining what this change is, the other pieces, like when I talk about the elements, definition is first and foremost, right? But then we have to be able to measure it, right? So what's the measurement of change, or what's the definition of done, right? Like, that's the other one. We, in our company, we do quarterly rocks, right? So we kind of go through this little, I mean, you were with us last month. We went through kind of that whole thing, and we narrow it down to these, tasks per se, or initiatives that we want to do. And it's delegated to each of the teams. They have to give us definition of done. They have to have the tasks that are measurable to the definition of done. And then we need to be able to go back and analyze it afterwards, right? And say, how did it go? Did we get it done? Were we on time, on task, on par to whatever it was the change was that we were trying to accomplish? But then once that's done, you still got to come back and analyze it. Like everybody thinks that, once change is done, even if we did it all right, everything that we just talked about, and everybody's all excited about it. Okay, we're all done. But things fall through the cracks. Staff turnover, leadership changes, acquisitions, new technology, like you can't just keep it, once it's implemented, it doesn't mean that you're not constantly evaluating what you just did.
Yeah, it's continuous. Wow. I was just thinking about, I was up there in Minneapolis with you and your team, and I got to lead a session using Lego Serious Play. And
Which is so much fun.
Isn't it fun? I've done this dozens and dozens of times, and I always start with the simple build a tower. And that just gets everybody's hands moving and gets you thinking, like everybody knows, or they have a concept in their mind of what does a tower look like? It's usually bricks, stacked on bricks. And then the next build I have teams do, and this is every time I do it, every time I lead a Lego Serious Play workshop, I ask the team to lean their tower by 45 degrees. And every single time, except one time, it was with your team. Every single time in the room, I hear a moan. I hear groans of, oh my gosh, what am I going to, because that's a change. They've just built this beautiful tower that they're very proud of. They're already attached to this tower, even though it's Lego bricks.
Do it.
And then I ask them, lean it by 45 degrees. And the room always grumbles, except your team. The Maxwell TEC team was silent. And I could just see their brains working. And then they just went to work and they leaned their tower. And it was the shortest build I've ever had. Usually it takes them a couple minutes. Your team just went, okay, done. Like, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. And I'm like, oh, this company is innovative. They use creativity and innovation all the time. They're used to change. They're used to helping people navigate and manage change. And so when I introduced just little bitty change, they were like, that's easy. Let me do that. Done. It was phenomenal, Jen. I loved seeing that. I was so impressed.
I was actually, it was kind of like a proud mama moment, right? Like, oh, all that hard work paid off, right? Like it was really fun to see that, because, our organization has gone through a lot of change over the last handful of years, even from the time of COVID, flipping our business model, changing into a tech-forward company, tech-enabled forward company, a rebrand, a replatform. There hasn't been anything that hasn't had the sense of change on it, right? And they just they thrive off of it. And what I love about that is they all always have a voice at the table. And I think, you probably saw that with the team is like, I want to hear from them. I want to do less talking. I want to hear what they're seeing, what they're feeling. What they see is new and improved or new ideas. I always tell my team underneath me, I'm like, guys, I can tell you how to run this company. I can tell you how to build it even bigger. But I want you guys to give me your plan. I want to be that person that lends you the ear, not the voice. Because otherwise they don't, it stifles creativity. It stifles innovation. It stifles the thought of thinking outside the box. When, that everybody always thinks, well, we can't do it that way. We've never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, just because we've never done it doesn't mean we can't do it.
Right. How might we this time? How might we change that?
Exactly. Or I was like, when we go into organizations, it's always like, well, we tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. You tried it, but that was also 15 years ago. And how many of those staff are still here? What does your org chart look like today? What does your tech stack look like today? What's your patient population look like? So then they're going, oh, well, we have 300 more census. Oh, we have 40 more employees and we've had a 30% turnover in our staffing. And so I'm like, okay, so those people aren't here anymore. So how about we just try it? Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you don't try something, you're not going to win the game at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's getting the team on board with the change. Like you've got to communicate it, you've got to lead it. So the defining the change and then measuring the change. Then what? And
then testing it. Like, kind of going back through and looking at it. There's like several models out there, but the easiest one that I always talk to my teams about, it's the Lewin's theory. He does the unfreeze, change, refreeze. And so when we unfreeze, like let's figure out what we want to change, and then let's make sure we support it, right, as a team and everything, and then let's make the change. Let's make sure we over communicate change. Let's make sure we empower change and action by the team, gamify it, make it fun, right? And then generate wins. Because, when you think about long-term change and like the change that my organization has gone over the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, that could be very tiring to people, but when we can check off like the little checkbox of wins and we reward each other for doing something and changing this or moving this ball forward or helping this client differently or looking at a product differently, like those are wins. And we acknowledge that and we make sure that people get excited. And, it's always so funny. People, I think we even talked about it when you were with us, how people like to be acknowledged, right? And so listening to that and knowing all the different styles that I have on the team and making sure that when, whether it's Steven or whether it's Andrew or whether it's Carrie, I know who they are and I know what gets them excited and how they like to be rewarded. And so making sure that you're communicating that and individualizing it. And then when you refreeze it, it's like, okay, this is a culture shift, right? Because it's a mindset. It's how the culture of the go forward looks like. And then how do we sustain it? And how do we support it? How do we still have kind of like an advisory board that comes back every 6 months or so and says, hey, we've been doing it this way for the last 6 months. Here's what I'm seeing are the pros. Here's what I'm seeing are the cons. And here's some suggestions that I have. Let's talk about it. Right. So, making sure there's different levels of groups that are having those conversations. So I have, an executive leadership team, but then I also have an operational leadership team. Right. And so my OLT is kind of my middle management people, my directors and managers that are overseeing the line level team. And they're coming up with ideas to optimize, to streamline process, to have standard operating procedures and really evaluating all of those things and then bringing it to leadership group. And then we talk about that together. So now it's a whole holistic voice of an organization versus just leadership sitting in a boardroom saying, we've got to make change, which that's typically what happens.
Yeah. And then that leadership team works with it and decides to do the change. And they've been working with it in their head and at that level for months maybe, and then they implement the change, and the rest of the team goes, "Wait, what? What are we doing?" Because they haven't had their mid-level managers at the table.
Yeah, they weren't even there, right? Like, and then I think the other big thing too is I challenge my team on timelines all the time. I'm like, let's under promise and over deliver, right? All the time, with quality, with timelines and things like that. But I think when you're thinking about change in general, you have to be realistic about what does the timeline look like? Because typically leadership will be like, well, I'm to blame, but I'll be like, I need that done last week. And they're like, that's going to take 3 months, Jen. And I'm like, okay, let's do a walk back timeline. Let's figure this out. So I have to be reality checked when it comes to change. And if I'm not listening to my team, I'm barking something at them that is unrealistic, and there's no way it's achievable, and there's no win. It's a lose-lose from a leadership perspective and an employee perspective.
Yeah, that is such a typical type A driver CEO girl, let me tell you.
I'm high D.
Yes, let's get it done. What's wrong with you people? Let's go. No, and I fall in that category too, as I almost always overestimate or underestimate how long something's going to take to get done. And I need a team of people around me to call me back and say, yeah, Heather, that's not realistic. Here's what we can do. And I like the way you talk about backing into it and then getting their, hearing their voices along the way. That's just so smart because you're getting the buy-in from them as well.
Yeah. Well, and I always like to say too, it's not only buy-in, but like I actually have our team complete the DISC assessment. So that, and like once a year or so, when we all get together, I put the big thing up on the screen and everybody gets to put their little dot with their initials as to where they scored. Right. Yeah. And so what I love is seeing the diversity. And when you have the diversity and about that, like when change happens, like you can come to me with change because I'm a D. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's or if it's an I, so they're an influencer, they're going to get their cheerleading skirt on and they're going to rah everybody to the end. Right. But then
guilty.
Right. And then you've got your S's and your C's who are like, whoa, time out.
Slow it down.
First
of
all,
have we thought this through? Yeah.
Do we have a plan? Do we have a timeline? Who are the responsible parties? How do we know that we're checking in on this correctly? Right? Like the simple things that we forget. And there's such a human behavioral component to change management that is unfortunately overlooked so much of the time. And I always try to really bring that back to the forefront because all of the strategic consulting that we do has to do with change.
Yeah.
And so if we as a team can't manage change, how are we to go into a large organization, home health, hospice, private duty, palliative care company and say, let's change, let's go. And we're not even on board.
That is, it's so true. And when we think about innovation and technology, it looks great on paper. Like this is what we're going to save. This is how it's going to streamline efficiencies and workflow. But at the end of the day, it's humans that have to implement it. And humans are complex and messy and amazing and beautiful, but they don't like change often. The high Ds obviously like change and the I's are right behind you going, let's go. Where you go, I'll follow. But you're so right. There's so many personalities out there that want to slow that down and think it through or just completely just like resist it. And so I'm curious. So when you do go into a company and you're helping them implement these changes and, using the technology like Nana Connect, it's just amazing. Like I'm so impressed with what you are innovating in your company right now.
Thank you.
How do you help those companies or those people just navigate that change? Like what does it look like boots on the ground?
Boots on the ground. So how I work with our consultants and the teams underneath them and with them is we become literally an extension of the organization. So yeah, I have my Maxwell TEC on today, right? So you can identify I'm a consultant, I'm with a tech company, but our teams come in and they walk into the agency just like every other employee. And a lot of the times when we're in the throes of the big change, not necessarily the assessment to identify what we need to change, but post that when we're doing the optimization phase of things and adoption, because it's implementation and adoption, right? Like those two have to be synonymous with each other. They really don't know that they're a Maxwell TEC employee or a consultant. They literally are like, oh, so you're with ABC? When did you get hired? I didn't see you on the onboarding schedule. You know what I mean? They honestly don't know that we are a different entity coming into these organizations. And so we really try to sit in their chair, see and feel what they're feeling so that we fully understand where the potential challenges are. And then,
I think that's brilliant.
You have to, because, and then what we do is it's a process of saying, okay, I think, these three branches are handling the change really well. These two are not. And here's what we think they need to help successfully transition them and get them through adoption. And so it might be additional training. It might be one-on-one. It might be you need to have more town hall meetings as this change is going on so that people have a voice and can ask questions. Like those. So we get very creative depending on the location, and the team really spends the time getting to know the teams that they're working with. And, just like we don't use a disc on our clients, but our team knows there are different personalities and different ways to communicate and communicate effectively in all directions, right? You want to go up, down, sideways, and back and forth as it relates to change.
Yes, so coming back to that over communicate. Yeah. No, so we've been talking about personalities, and you and I can talk, with our mental health backgrounds, we can talk personalities all day. And I love the DISC and looking at the different ways that each of the DISC adapt and work with change. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the way different generations work with change? So we have 4 generations in the workforce now. We've got the boomers, we've got Xers, millennials, and now Gen Z, which is our sons, are all in the workforce now because both of our youngest are the same age and they just started working. What have you noticed with the different generations and change?
Yeah, so I would tell you, the boomers are the steady eddies. They're the ones that are the rule followers. They have committed to a career. So they're the ones that have worked at the same job for 20 plus years, et cetera. As you keep kind of going into the younger phase, you're seeing them stay less. So like the Xers and the Gen Zs, if they don't like it, they move on. There's not kind of that commitment to stay and, kind of grind through different things. And so I think when you're talking about change, you really are looking at 2 different pedestals, right? Of people. And then you got the ones in the middle who are a little bit of a hybrid, right? They'll stay 7 to 10 years, maybe, et cetera. But then you also have the other ones that are moving every 2 years. And so when you think about grabbing resumes and you're hiring, I always look at age, well, kind of when did they graduate? And then I look at their overall history of jobs. And you can tell the younger ones, there's probably 15 different jobs that are listed versus the older generation who've been, there's only maybe 3 or 4 on the whole resume, right? Because they've stayed so long. So you have to, when you think about change, you have to get creative with it. You have to be thinking about, okay, technology with Gen Xers and that looks very different with boomers, right? And how do you come together and find kind of common ground? So our team is really good at being able to take those older nurses who are not used to a tablet, they're used to writing notes on a notepad and then going back to the office and taking their visit notes, et cetera, versus the other ones who literally their phone is the only thing that they have in their life and they do everything on their phone, right? It was funny. I had a conversation with my older son at one point, and I said, I remember the time when cell phones became a big thing and you ended up having, a girlfriend, having a relationship with a girlfriend, and then breaking up with a girlfriend all through your cell phone. And that's when I said, we have got to change communication styles. Like, I don't care how great technology gets, we still have to communicate verbally. And, even though you and I are on a podcast and we're on a camera, I can see you. You can see me. Those are the things that are super important, right? Like being able to see your smile or your facial expression, or those are the things that really do hold a lot of water when it comes to change management. So when I
it's
talk
interesting
about
that
you can't just send out a memo to, your boomers and your Xers and expect the same response. It's just not going to happen.
No, it is fascinating though to see the differences that the generations just respond to change, and it's different. If it's a life change versus adopting technology. Because it seems like if you take a boomer, for example, and they have a life change, like a loss in their life, like maybe they lose a friend or a parent or something. They've had that experience over and over and over, and that loss and that change hurts and it's painful, but they keep going. Versus a younger generation experiencing that kind of change because it's the first time they've ever experienced it. And it's, very different. And then we look at technology adoption. Like our sons are technology natives. They grew up with technology versus a Gen Xer or a boomer who didn't, and they're learning to adopt to it. So change can be different based on, I guess, what we're asking them to adopt and to change with. Like, what is the change? Is it just a different workflow?
A process? Is it like our electronic medical record? Is it our billing system? Is it our intake referrals? Like, how are we looking at this change? And organizations are going to automation because of the pinch, the regulation changes and compliance and all of those things. And so being mindful of that is also a threat to our baby boomers, our older, the older ones that are in the field, but they're the ones that also have the most knowledge out of everybody because they've been here for so long, right? And so they are just as important as our baby or as our Gen Xer who has got all this energy and is all technology driven and I'm ready to go. That everybody has a voice and everybody has a spot at this table of change, no matter the age.
Yeah. I always say creativity and innovation, it's a team sport. And we need everybody at the table, just like you said, to manage that. So, wow. Well, what final takeaways would you have for our listeners just about change management?
I would say, when you think about change, it's easy to throw that word out there. It's almost like it becomes a slang, right? Like, oh yeah, we're going to change that tomorrow. Oh yeah, we're going to change this. But if you're really thinking about change within your organization, you gotta be strategic about it. Like, be strategic. Like, when we work with organizations where we're doing very large change, we stage it out, right? Like, you can't, teams and organizations can only handle so much, right? Without it breaking. And so we want to be very goal specific, extremely focused, and have a strategy behind it, right? Like, those are kind of the big things that I think about when I think about strategic change. Make it sticky. Like, make it sticky where everybody wants to do it, right? And then be a good teacher and a great coach. So you got to teach, but you got to coach too. Like, you got to be excited for them. You got to, when they do fall down and bruise a knee because the change is a little bit hard today, you got to be there for them. You got to coach them through it, right? Because not everybody can manage the change as well as the person sitting next to them. And then always give the big picture. Like, we're doing this because this is where we want to be tomorrow, or this is where we want to be next year. If you don't give anybody, I'm a visual person. If you don't give me the visual to this, I'm going to have a real hard time with managing the change because I don't know what it means to me. And then the other piece is the last and final piece I would say is the communication. Cannot underestimate frequency and over communicating.
Absolutely. Yeah. So make it sticky, be the coach and the teacher, give them the big picture. And we started with that, with the, give them the why, like, why is this beneficial? Why are we doing this in the first place? And then communicate, over communicate, and then communicate again.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Jen, this has been such a fun conversation. Before I let you go, I have a mascot, Percy, the I'm in penguin. He's my little research assistant. He's been sitting over here very patiently, and he has a question for you. Percy, come on over. What you got for Jen? All right. Percy has 2 questions for you.
Okay.
And the first question comes from a previous guest. And the question is, what book or books have helped transform you into the person that you are today?
Patrick Lencioni. He is ultimately my favorite leadership fable person. So when we think about change as leaders and how do we grow as leaders, I like real life application. And his books are all about applying, whether you're a CEO, whether you're trying to manage meetings, whether you're trying to manage a team, whether you are trying to even manage a career and a family. And how do you navigate that with trying to be a successful leader, right? Like, there's so many things, and he just does a really great job of applying it to real life.
So he is such a good writer. He's the one that wrote, give us a couple of his books that you would recommend to our listeners.
So the 4 Obsessions of a CEO, I would say The Ideal Team Player.
Okay.
5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The Advantage.
Keep going.
And then, what's the other one? Death by Meeting is another one.
All right, fantastic.
Which we all
you
know
are a fan. Yes, that feels awful. Like, not one more meeting that accomplishes nothing. That wastes everybody's time. Yeah. Yep. All right, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Percy's second question is, what question would you like to ask a future guest?
So the last time I was on, I asked a very philosophical question. I think I would like to ask your next guest, what has been your most favorite vacation and why? We don't ever talk about checking out. We don't ever talk about, like, how do you relax, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we need to do that more. There's research that shows that when you go on vacation, when you come back, you're more creative. Exactly. Because you've been able to relax and just ideate and just be in the moment and absorb new experiences and new foods and just places. Even if you just do a staycation, like you don't have to spend a lot of money, but it's just that time of that downtime that it helps us be more creative.
Yep.
Why are we still here, Jen? Let's go. Where are we going?
I know. Let's go.
Greece.
I need to go on a vacation.
Yeah, it's time. All right. I love that. Well, my friend, can I entice you to come back again and let's continue the conversation?
You know, I love this and I love spending time with you.
Oh, well, likewise. I think you and I could talk about just about anything and have a fascinating conversation. So thank you for being here. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. So we are at Maxwell TEC, TEC.com.
All right. Fantastic. And I will list that in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you to our listeners for joining us in this conversation. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with somebody who could use a dose of inspiration and creativity. And please leave us a review. I read every single one. Until next time, keep saying, I'm in to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. May you be wildly creative in your life and leadership. I'll see you soon.